Welcome to CarePod, a safe place to educate, inspire, and renew the caregiver. Listen in with our host, Dr. Kipley Bell, as she interviews different experts along the caregiving journey.
Lena helps women create the depth of intimacy in relationships they've never had before. Through multiple radio programs, podcasts, and a TEDx Talk, she's given hundreds of women the impetus to discover their true identities. Through her bespoke, one-to-one coaching, she helps women define their values and their value and create the enriched relationships they desire. Want to have more love in every aspect of your life? Lena can show you how. Listen in.
So this is a fun podcast welcoming Lena Ehrenberg. Find her at Have More Love. We need more love in this world, in our lives. She's a dynamic, I would say, life coach, because this is the very crucial part of, the ways in which we define love, self-love for ourselves, intimacy in our relationships, how that creates a narrative in our families, on and on. So I'm very excited to have Ms. Ehrenberg with us at the CarePod today. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us again at Have More Love. Check her out. So welcome. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Miss Ehrenberg, I feel like that must be somebody else. Just call me Lena, please.
Lena, thank you. So I ask every guest their why. I want to understand the road, what brought you here. Just for our audience purposes, this is important because I get a lot of caregivers who, may have lost a loved one later on in life. They're trying to kind of get their groove again, find their way, still feel vital and sexy and want to get back in the game, and may feel, trepidatious on how to do that, to every extreme, to maybe the singleton who's never really found their way in love, has had, quite, several obstacles and failures, etc. So just interested in your journey, how you got here, and how you take a client to help them, define their self-love, to create the love that they want and deserve in their own life.
Well, wonderful. And self-love, you said it. So we're going to get to that later on, I'm sure. But, but thank you. Thinking back over my journey personally, I, just from a romantic perspective of my journey, didn't have a lot of dates in high school, didn't have a lot of dates in college, didn't have a lot of dates in my 20s. It was I'm nothing if not consistent. And it got to the point where I just realized that, okay, it can't be 4 billion men in the world that are all something. What am I bringing to this, And so I remember the moment where it occurred to me that if my life had been a science experiment, I had already changed my job quite a few times, changed where I lived. I've lived in 3 different states, had all different friends because of that, had all different life experiences. And so if it all were a science experiment, apparently I was the only constant. And that's what got me seeking. And so that was my journey as far as romantic relationships. I remember a moment when I was hiking or attempting to begin a hike in the south of France, and I couldn't even find the trailhead. I could not get out of town. I could not get on the path. And I sat down on the curb of a traffic circle with cars literally zooming around me while I was sobbing thinking this is ridiculous. You try to do something different. This is how it works out. It's all, look at you. Of course, this didn't work. All the things, right? And yet this one time I was very aware that there was a little angel message tapping me, and I paid attention, and I'm really grateful that I did. And that message said to me, okay, well, you want to tell that sob story? You can choose to tell that sob story. You go ahead. Let's get back on the plane. And that's going to be your story for the rest of your life. Or you could choose a different story. You got 10 seconds to decide. Clock's running. Let's go.
Interesting.
And yeah. And I felt it felt to me as if somebody was literally sitting next to me, whispering that in my ear. And the biggest part of all of that was it had never occurred to me that I got to choose. It had never occurred to me that everything that had come before was just not going to continue. And angels kept showing up for me the entire rest of that trip. Apparently, I did get out of the south of France because I'm here.
You found your trail. You found your trail, right?
Well, I found my trail with a lot of help. I personally did not find that trail, but that finding, that literal way that I got on that trail was part of what put me on this path of doing what I do now. And so much of what I do is assuring people every single day that your past does not define your future. So much of what I do is assuring people that you're not actually in this alone. Even when you think that you're in this alone, we're never in it alone. We just have to really, really tune in. We have to really, really listen. And then when we start to listen and we start to hear, then we have to really learn to discern, okay, what am I listening to? Which one of these messages am I going to follow? What really resonates for me? So all of that plays a part in it. And so along my journey, I've learned so many things, not only about romantic relationships, which, again, we'll talk about that because there's some really specific things. And I know that you have, your audience wants to know about that. But when I also think about, in parallel, my experiences as a caregiver, there's all these other types of layers to that, right? So there are two specific times in my life that I would definitely define myself as having been a caregiver. One of those times was when my father was living close to me and had been very active for all the years that he had come to live out here, and then eventually started to really slow down. And there was a period of time that he wound up in the hospital. He was in the hospital for about 6 weeks and then in a rehab facility for another 6 weeks. And during that period of time, I was certainly not primary caregiver. He was getting excellent care, but I was showing up every single day. I was advocating for him every single day in those situations that we also are called upon to do, right? So I was doing that. And I was also preparing myself to slip into a different type of caregiving role if I needed to. I was actually, on the suggestion of his medical team, I was looking for a different type of living situation for him and for possibly both of us. And unfortunately, he did not leave the rehab facility. And although I'm very, very grateful for the care that he got, and so there was that period of time in my life, but there was also a period of time where I became a single foster mama. And
wow,
it was something I, 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 was something it was another one of those moments that I can remember waking up one morning and saying, okay, I will probably never have my own children, but I would really like the experience of raising a child at some point in their life, and what is that experience and what can I bring to that. And so I did that, again, not alone. Yeah, they called me a single foster parent, but I had, all of I still laugh at myself, my closest board of director friends, none of them have their own children. And I thought, okay, we're all going to figure it out. Well, I had totally forgotten until people started showing up at my door. I'd totally forgotten that one of my friends is the oldest of 7. And one of my friends is an aunt and a great aunt to 7 or 8. And one had moved in with her sister after she had her baby and helped raise her and start her out. And all of the angels came forward again. And so that was another experience that I had that I want to assure everyone listening that we're really not doing it alone. And if we give ourselves the chance to pause and just see what comes to us, rather than always thinking like, I have to figure this out and what am I going to do in this moment, that's really has been so helpful to me, just the pause and the listening. So
absolutely. So
that's just really, kind of brings me to here and how I want to pay it forward.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of things that you said that were really poignant about choosing. Choosing who you surround yourself with as a community, and also choosing yourself. Would you say that the clients that you have, or when you sit with a client, that the women or even the men you may sit with defer the choice of who they love or who is to love them outside of themselves, versus looking inward and saying, wow, I have XYZ to offer. My cumulative life experience has these offerings, versus trying to seek something outside of yourself. That choice, that sensation of choosing, I thought was very poignant in what you said.
Yeah, it is. And to your point, I think that that's the way we're all raised. I think that that's the way we're all socialized. We're socialized to look outside and see who likes us, who is attracted to us, who chooses us, right? It's almost like when we're who's choosing up sides for a game on the school playground, right? And there's 2 captains, will I get chosen, right? And so the first thing that I do, and I do work predominantly with women, and so the very first thing I do with all of my clients is we start from you. Who are you? What do you bring? What do you want? What are your values? And it's so important to, I say that it's the difference between going out in the world and just seeing who's out there who will respond to you, versus you get to bring you, all of you, your fullness, your richness, your authenticity, all of your beauty and worth and value out into the world, and then say who is going to be in best alignment with me and for me. Who is the person, right? And
it's
then,
a completely different narrative. Completely
different. And also what that does is it honors the third component, because a lot of times we think about one person and another person, 2 people in a relationship, but it also honors the component of the relationship, and it helps make the relationship, richer and more worthwhile. And that's how we do that we bring two full people into creating that.
So, what do you say to the caregiver who says, listen, you know what? I'm lucky if I can put on lipstick today, or I can't even remember the last time I washed my hair, let alone being fully present unto myself to even be the flower to be picked, per se.
Right. So what I say to that person is, and I'm not saying this lightly, and I'm not saying that it's going to be easy, but what I'm saying is you have to give yourself permission. You have to give yourself permission to put yourself first at times. And I get it. I really get it. And I will repeat it because I've been accused of this. Oh, that's easy for you to say. I'm not saying that it's easy for you to do, but there's a lot of things that we do in life that are not easy. And we do them because they're necessary. And it is necessary, especially if you are someone who is in a caregiving season that is a very long season, or it might be 2 or 3 or 4 seasons, or multiple years, right? That's when it's even more necessary, because we've all heard the adage about putting on our own oxygen masks before we put on someone else's. And yet, instinct, I would put that mask on that child before I would put it on myself. And yet, how many more people could we help? How much longer can we be of service when we have that oxygen mask on?
Yeah, that is so key. That's so key. How long can we be fully present? And can I even reverse that? Even deprived of oxygen, how long can you last?
Yes.
That is so key. Because, in my situation, I'm married, and what I hold on to is I'm almost a beast. Like, I'm fiercely holding on to the parts of my life that enable me to thrive, which is hugely my work. My work is a gift to me. It's not work. And so the honor to take care of patients, the honor to lecture, to be amongst families, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, that portion is clutch for me to hold on to, because it is a long haul. The dementia space, watching an aging loved one being robbed of themselves. In my situation, I'm exercising the work of my mother's hands. So to me, it's a must. It is a part of that self-love. But boy, that is so key. It's so key to put it in reverse, to say, you know what, if you don't put that oxygen on first, how long can you survive depriving yourself of that self-love? That's huge.
Right.
That's huge.
And also, and I just want to say something and honor you right now in this moment, because you just said something that made me grab my pen. You said what I do is a gift to me, right? And that's part of it. And that is beautiful. And what you are doing is a gift to someone else, and a gift to so many others. And that is also, that just feeds that person in so many ways, and we can see how important it is. And so of course we want to, I just want to stop and acknowledge you for that, because this is a gift. It's truly a gift.
Thank you.
Let's go shopping. check out impactfulcaregiving.store. There, you will find everything from assisted devices to comfort care items and even tech to support your aging loved one and relieve a little caregiver stress along the way.
Thank you. To me, I was joking with a friend the other day because over the last few weeks, I've really had to define my why as an entrepreneur. Like, what is impactful caregiving? What do I hope to achieve as a business? You know, I've sat with from everyone from travel and hospitality, the airlines industry, on redefining, you know, what age looks like. We have to think beyond a handicap placard and a ramp. You know, how are we accommodating the aging loved one and taking that caregiver stress off that person? And so, you know, for me, a lot of my why is to say I cannot be the only one that's trying to function at an executive level that has a pain point from someone who, you know, my aging loved one who essentially crafted my whole life, my whole career path, you know? So yeah. But that struck me so when you said, how long can you last? Because I think we allow ourselves as caregivers to get to such a place of depletion. And then how do you build those building blocks from there? Huge.
Right.
Huge.
And then think about the next step in that. Then how much longer are you giving care versus possibly needing care yourself?
Yeah.
Right? So we all have human needs. We all have human desires. We all have wants, and it's okay. Not only is it okay, it's part of how we're built. And when we deny those things to ourselves is when we're getting off into territory that is, it's not in our best interests, right? It really isn't. And so, yeah, that's what I think about so much, because when we can, again, not easy. I get it. Don't send me emails. It's not easy. Don't send me emails. It's not easy to shift our belief system, but sometimes it's necessary to shift our belief system out of, I give care, I am here for this person, and all the rest of it just has to fall by the wayside. And if we can start to at least integrate, I can do something to feed myself. I can do something to enrich my life today. I can do something to enliven myself and to feel joy and to see beauty and to have a little fun. And then we're taking that lift into our caregiving with us. And isn't that a gift for the person who we're going to share that with as well?
Absolutely. Your cup is full. You're able to pour. Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have any male clients?
I don't tend to coach in the relationship space with men. I used to be a weight coach, and I did have men and women clients as a weight coach, which was so interesting.
Okay.
And a lot of fun too. And but right now, no, with relationships, I really love to support women, and I love to I love to see the moment where someone's eyes open up and they say, "Oh, I never thought of it that way."
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love that. And
Absolutely.
they take that out into the space. That is one thing, though. I mean, in a way, we are so benefiting men. And I have this conversation with my clients who are dating now too, that it's it's not just about making dating better for them. When they're having a more positive experience of dating, when they're going out with the understanding and the belief that dating is fun, then the men they're interacting with are also having a much more positive experience of dating. And that's how we're all paying it forward. And so I really like to just feel like we're all uplifting the dating environment and the relationship environment too, for your listeners who are in relationships or perhaps married or whatever type of relationship it might be. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny, a lot of times I get men that come forward they're like, don't forget us, we see these things, we see these events, and we think it's just for the ladies, so we just hang back. But I do think that, especially from an intimacy standpoint, if the woman is well, like literally, well and whole unto herself, it becomes, she seeks that compliment to herself. And so then it becomes a better whole. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
So take us through the steps. What are your steps to the first date?
Okay. Well, so like I said, I start with every client and we do a very in-depth, very deep dive into who are you and what are your values in life. And our values are not just what we say our values are. Our values are not just what tugs at us. What are you doing? How are you spending your time? What are your priorities? Our priorities tell us so much more about our values than we might be aware of. So we do a lot of in-depth looking at that. And we also talk a lot about lifestyle, because that's super important too. And for a lot of people, that's not necessarily something that they might think of or have a conversation with someone that they're dating for quite a ways down the road, right? And I think there's a lot of assumptions going on in dating, and some people thinking, oh, well, I want this, and they probably want this too, because we've gotten to 4 dates, so they must want the same things that I do. And let's talk about lifestyles. Are you someone who wants to live in a home with children, or are you and does that mean small children or older children, or are you someone who doesn't want to necessarily have a lot of children around? Are you someone who wants to live are you a city mouse or a country mouse,
Yeah.
Or somewhere in between, and all of those things. Are you someone who loves to travel? Are you someone who your business necessitates your traveling? All of these things are taken into consideration. So after we do that work, we then talk a lot about, well, who might be a good match for you, right? What types of qualities in a person will best support what you now know about yourself? And there's a lot of difference between qualities and attributes, even though the dictionary doesn't say so. I just really feel like there's a big difference between someone who is a certain height and has a certain job title versus someone who loves to talk and interact with me, someone who I can, bring my questions to, someone who will bring their questions to me, someone with whom I can, just get on the phone with on my way home after a really hard day, and they'll listen to me and they'll, tell me, I got you. When we're together, this is what we're going to do. I'll have dinner ready when you get home, and we will discuss this further. Or they'll know after a day like that, no, I'm going to get in a bubble bath, and then we're going to reconvene in a couple of hours, and then we'll talk, right? So there's one thing that I say to a lot of people is that we don't like, take for example, a title. Take for example, something that people do for business. Who are we seeking when we go out and date? So there are some people in the world who feel that it's very important that they want to be in a relationship with someone who has a particular type of work. And I get that, but here's how that could play out. You don't live with someone's job title. You live with the necessities of their job. And so it's very noble. You might want to, you're a doctor, and that is highly respected, and that tells me a lot about you. But there are some women who say, well, I really want to be married to a doctor. I think that's really important. And I'll say, okay. And yet they might also say, I really want to be in a relationship with someone who will be able to be with me every single weekend. I have a large family. We have a lot of events. And it's really important to me that my partner be at every event with me every weekend. And you're laughing because what happens when you're a doctor?
That your time is not your own. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
so you need a partner that it loves you and respects, has that flexibility. Yeah, these are the things kind of before you do, right? That you need to walk through, and you're doing important work, because these are the real life, the real talk questions that people need to ask. It's something, one of the questions you said struck me about children, because as a caregiver, your aging loved ones, and in terms of the ways in life comes full circle. There are some clients who claim that or present that as an insecurity, as baggage that they're fearful of bringing to someone, that they happen to be a caregiver in this season of their lives, caring for ex family member. And that takes an obscene amount of their time and effort, and that they may be exhausted or irritable or not their best selves. And that becomes, a self-fulfilling prophecy in and of itself, and robs them of that earlier point you made about really saying, no, I need to take this time to fulfill this other part of my life. So what do you say to that person who brings that up as an insecurity?
Well, a couple of things. First is, I just wish I could give every single one of those people a hug right now. I really do. And one of the things that I've truly learned from myself, is every single thing that I personally hold as an insecurity, there is somebody out in the world who wouldn't even notice that thing. Truly not notice that thing. So it is such a statement about you to be a caregiver, especially when you're in it for the long run. It shows so much of who you are and how you go about living your life and adding value to the world, to be a caregiver. And you don't need to even consider anyone who would see that as an imposition, right? You get to totally focus on all the many, many people who will see that as something beautiful about you. And I could just go on in that vein forever, but I think it's a human thing. We think ahead to all the possibilities of what might not work. And one really good tool to have in your toolbox is to start to really train yourself to think ahead to all the ways that something will work and will be beautiful and will be positive for you. And that you can do. You absolutely can focus and know that that partner is out there. And
this whole, it's so funny because we know this intuitively, but this whole concept of you choose, girlfriend, you choose. Where did we learn that that our choice is deferred? Where did we learn, at what point in the continuum of life did we learn as women to defer the choice outside of ourselves?
Oh, no, I don't know that there's any one place, right? So I think that for each of us in our each different situation, we learned it differently. And also, there's not any one place, because I think there's also a lot of places. So, how did it come to each of us personally? That came in its own personal way, and yet it's reinforced and reinforced and reinforced and reinforced. But just like I learned in a very tiny little town in the south of France, I get to choose to change that narrative.
Beautiful. It's beautiful. Beautiful. You're going to add so much value and thought to our CarePod audience. I really, really embrace this concept of choice, because it's not conceptual. It's more than that. It's even deeper than a self-love. It's a self-awareness of the possibility of love. I mean, how best can you go from there? Beautiful.
Absolutely.
So again,
absolutely.
Tell us, we're international. So tell us how the woman in the south of France on the curb can connect with you, to the woman in Philly, to, the Midwest. How does a client connect with you and begin the work?
Well, one way is to find me on either Instagram or Facebook if you are inclined to do either of those things. And I am at Have More Love. I also have a website, which is my name, which is lenaehrenberg.com. And I'm trusting that will be spelled out in the show notes somewhere. But if that's a lot of spelling, and I always joke that my parents were not planning for my having to have a website sometime in the future. So it's like a lot of spelling. But you can also just type in havemorelove.com, and that will come find me through the wizardry of technology. And you have the opportunity on there to click on the buttons and make an appointment to talk to me, or to call me in, whatever, or you can text me from that number. There's just so many ways to touch base, and I just love to hear from people, and I want to know how I can serve you. I also want to know, what are your experiences, and how best can I serve you? Because like we just said, it's so unique. It's so unique to each of us, and you get to have your wonderful life.
Absolutely.
Whatever that looks like for you. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I am so thankful that you joined us. I think that there are a lot of clients that can benefit from sitting with you. Tell us, how many sessions typically do you offer, or what that looks like on average?
On average, I've got clients who want to just come in and just talk about the dating part of it. It depends where they're coming from. But I meet with people anywhere from 6 months to a year. A lot of my clients really like to dig in and do a lot of the upfront work as well. And we meet weekly, and it's just one-to-one. It's just you and me. And so that I can really get to know you and find out, where are you? What do you need right now? What are your circumstances? And how can and what is it that you're looking for? Because that's the other thing about relationships too, which I will offer specifically for your caregiver audience. Maybe you just want to go out and be social and just date and just, have a little fun and not feel like, I don't have time for a relationship. My primary relationship is with my elder right now. And that's perfectly okay. And there are a lot of people out there who want the same thing. Wherever you're at, I want to help you find the person who wants the same thing that you do.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much again for joining us here at the Care Pod.
Thank you so much. I've really, really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
Great information right from the source. For more information on how to caregive like a boss, check out impactfulcaregiving.com. Want to be a guest on the show? Contact us at CarePod at impactfulcaregiving.com.